Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Inquisitively Me. I'm Mary, a life coach, a mom, and someone who's, well, inquisitive. Today, we are talking about social anxiety, understanding it, its signs and symptoms, and ways to manage. Social anxiety affects many people. However, it is not spoken about much, in my opinion. It's more than feeling nervous in social situations. It can be quite debilitating. According to the DSM-5, which is the handbook used by clinicians as a guide to diagnose mental health disorders, some elements of social anxiety disorder is, quote, marked fear or anxiety about one or more social situations in which the individual is exposed to possible scrutiny by others. The individual fears that he or she will act in a way or show anxiety symptoms that will be negatively evaluated, that is, will be humiliating or embarrassing, will lead to rejection or offend others. The social situations are avoided or endured with intense fear or anxiety. These feelings typically last for 6 months or more. They are causing clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupation, or other important areas of functioning. End quote. Okay, so that is a lot to take in. I get it. To break that down, at its core, it's a fear of judgment, embarrassment, and rejection in social situations. There is a constant belief that you are not good enough, you will say something to cause rejection or cause an embarrassing moment, and that people are all silently judging you. Simple interactions can feel like intense challenges, but it is my belief that understanding the roots, we can at least start to dismantle the power it has over us. Physiological symptoms can include rapid heartbeat, sweating, trembling, and nausea. They are similar to the symptoms that fall under generalized anxiety disorder, since social anxiety involves anxiety. Now, the social part comes in with our thoughts about being in public. We have intrusive thoughts, excessive worry, and fear of being negatively judged by others to the point of avoiding social situations. If this is something that's limiting your life, it may be time to seek help and find ways to manage it. One of the things you can do in the moment is to focus on your breath. Anytime we are feeling intensely worried or afraid about something, we need to calm our body down. One of the ways we can do so is intentionally breathing. I remember explaining this to a past client of mine. It seems silly to teach someone how to breathe since it's something we do naturally, but you would be surprised at how many of us don't know how to breathe in these sorts of situations. When you breathe in, your belly is supposed to rise to get all the air in, and our bellies will expand. As we breathe out, our bellies go down. If you are able to close your eyes, I would suggest closing them to block any sort of visual distraction. When you need to calm your body, start with the breath. Even if you're still having the thoughts as you are attempting to breathe, it's okay. Allow the thoughts to come and go, but continue focusing on calming your body. I will also mention this is where therapy comes in. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a great modality to challenge our negative thought patterns, and bit by bit we expose ourselves to the fear, and it can help us over time manage the anxiety. For example, if we have the belief that people are judging my outfit at a party, they are thinking I look fat. Under CBT, we would challenge the thought, try to find the evidence of that thought being factual. If we do not find anything, we would then find evidence of the opposite. Perhaps people are not actually looking at you. Perhaps they are looking at you with awe, or they like the color you wore. But even past that, we work towards not personalizing things. Even if someone was judging you, we would work on getting you to a place where you don't personalize it. Their perspective about you does not hold power over you. It is tough work, but you can do it in time and effort. Obviously, I tried to condense that as simplistically as I could, but you would do more in-depth work in sessions. I would also want you to think of the why in the social environment. Are you there for work, to meet friends, to simply pick up dinner and there's a long wait time? There is always a why or a cause for our actions. Keep those reasons in mind while attempting to not allow the intrusive thoughts to take control. Sometimes the purpose or motivation of putting ourselves out there helps. Not all the time, but sometimes. That reminds me of a story with my son where it did not work, to be honest. This was a time my anxiety was really, really heightened and I was really struggling with managing it. He was about 6 at the time and we were at the park. We were alone, so I was his only playmate. I always enjoy that. However, this time he wanted to play pretend. He wanted to use his imagination. He made up a story that we were these big bear monsters running around in the playground. When he asked me to join him, I am sad and pretty ashamed to say that I froze. I couldn't do it. Even though we were alone, I cannot bring myself to be a big scary bear for the small chance that a car driving by would see me, a neighbor walking by would have caught me in the act. And how nuts is that? Having a fear of being judged for the act of playing with my son at the park, having an amazing time, laughing and being silly sounds insane. Logically, my feelings of worry did not make sense, but I could not move past it. I really couldn't. If we were home alone, I could be the silliest, goofiest mom rolling around on the floor with him, but in public, I just couldn't. I knew I deprived him of something there. He asked me to join him in play, and I didn't. When children ask you or welcome you in their play, it's really significant, and I did not take the opportunity. I felt like I couldn't. Frankly, I don't even remember what I told him, but I remember feeling horrible. I processed that scenario out with my therapist at the time, and I was able to move past it, but it still nonetheless stung. I allowed my intrusive thoughts to control me. And I wanted to make sure I shared that story because I want to make it known that yes, some information and resources or tips that are out there can apply to you and can work well for you, and I really hope it does. But there are some moments where it doesn't, and that's okay too. There's a saying, I don't know who said it, but take what serves you basically and let go of what doesn't. So this applies here too. Aside from thinking of purpose, mantras are a good way to self-soothe. I may have stated this in another episode, but my favorite is all is well. I repeat that to myself in my head quite often when I'm fearful or worried about something. Again, it calms my body down and I'm able to continue functioning. A couple of others, another client of mine and I made up was adding, I am safe. So you could say to yourself, I am safe, all is well, I am safe, all is well. If you're worried about judgment, you can say, it's not about me, it's not about me. Because it truly isn't. Even if there is judgment, their perspective is their perspective. It does not make it true. It's their opinion. The more we realize how we are all functioning in this world from our small perspective, the closer we get to the realization that it really does not matter, and we are all truly worried about ourselves. We are not giving as much thought to others as we think others are onto us. We have been so conditioned to care so much what others think, we struggle to care less about what others think, even when we know it's impeding our lives so negatively. It takes time to unlearn what you have learned for years, so be patient with yourself and do not be afraid to reach out for help. This will take a lot of reframing of our thoughts, feeding our brains different information, courage to expose ourselves to the fear a tiny step at a time, and a lot of confidence building skills. This can be managed. It's about finding and testing different skills to manage it. Okay, so this is a part of the show where I want to learn about some experiences people have gone through or are going through. I will also share some of my own experiences with social anxiety, which I still struggle with today, but it has gotten so much better than the past, but it's definitely still there. My hope is for you to find value in hearing mine and other people's stories. If you ever want to share a story or have a question you want me to answer on an episode, email me and you just might hear it on here. You can email me at inquisitivelymepodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at _inquisitivelymeme. I look forward to it. Okay, so this first one is titled, Anyone Else Get Thrown Off About Whether or Not You Should Say Hi When Walking? So I walk at this park nearly every day now, and sometimes the anxiety is through the roof. Other times I'm okay. What always makes me tense is when people are walking by and I'm not sure if I should say hello to them. Now, a number of people have said hi to me. Then I reciprocate. Simple enough. Anyway, I live in this mid-sized Midwestern town. Not small town friendly exactly, but my parsing of the culture is fairly friendly, or that's the expectation. Except I rarely say hi to people unless they greet me first. Plus, someone I was really close with a few years back said I had very intimidating body language. Parentheses, I typically have that with anxiety. Anyway, I just hate it because I never know when I'm being an unfriendly asshole. Okay, so this one, maybe it's me or some of you guys listening. Like, this is very relatable. Maybe it isn't all of us sort of thing where it is a little awkward when you are walking past someone, whether it's at school, at your job, in a building, at the park, like you're just walking by someone. Do you look at the floor? Do you make eye contact? Do you smile? Do you not smile? Do you say hi? How are you? Do you not say hi? How are you? It's a lot of this like overthinking, that anxious part. I do a mix of things. I think it depends on the environment. Because like I said, this is still something I'm struggling with. Like I want to get to a point in my life where I can just walk super confidently and be super sure of myself and not feel as though I need to look at the ground or I need to look at my phone. That's a big one. Or I need to like avoid certain social situations because of this anxiety that I experience. But there are moments I try to look up when I'm close enough, anyways, and I will probably smile if I make eye contact. Some moments, say if I'm in my neighborhood, I will say, hi, how are you? Just because I'm in the neighborhood and that's what neighbors do. But let's say like at my office in my work building, maybe not so much, unless it's like the receptionist. Like I always say hello to them. But this reminds me, this is going to sound really, really bad. This is not going to be a good one. So back in college, I had pretty crappy dorms. Like they were very, very small. It's what I could afford. So it's not like I had my own private space. And I would say the whole entire room was probably, my guess is maybe 10 by 10 or something of the like. I had roommates throughout the entire time I was there, and I remember my college experience was just different, to be frank. Like, I was a super nerd. I was a hermit. I was in my room studying, really just focusing on school and work at the time. And let's just say I wasn't a social butterfly. Like, I just wasn't. And I never had that experience of like, oh my gosh, roommates and being friends or best friends with your roommates and being really close and getting to know them, and like this really being someone that you can go out to lunch with or dinner with. Like I never did that. I had no interest in doing so, therefore I never did. So and plus I just didn't really understand that concept. Like I didn't know that this is like kind of the expectation. I think I learned along the way, like, oh, I think like roommates usually are close or like at least say hello to one another. And that brings me to my point of me not really saying hello when I would like enter the space. And it's not to be mean. Like, of course I said hello, good to meet you when we were first unpacking and, actually meeting one another. But aside from that, like it was really rare for me to walk into my side of the room after class and like say hello, how are you, and like catch up to see how they're doing. It just, maybe I came off as mean. I probably did come off mean, but it just wasn't me. It wasn't authentically me. Like it was no hate against them at all. Luckily, all my roommates were super kind, super nice, and I never had any issues with them. But I just simply wouldn't say hello. Like more than likely I probably had like my earphones on and just walk in, drop my bag, like just get to my work, doing homework or getting something to eat, relaxing and just like taking my mind off just what I experienced in class. Yeah, and I wonder what they thought of that. Like it's looking back, I can understand, or I can acknowledge that I could have been more polite and at the very least said hello. But it was also nervousness. Like, one, my mind was super focused on like, I'm not here to make friends. Like, I am here to study, get my degree, and like get out of here. I wasn't necessarily there for like the college experience. However, I can hold myself accountable and be like, no, Mary, like I could have been kinder. I could have just said hello at the very least. Hi, how are you? How are your classes going? Or you know what? Not even that far. Just hi, how are you? And actually meant it. Like I could have done that and I didn't, because I did feel awkward. It was awkward to share space with someone. I grew up with sisters. Like the people that are closest to me are my family. So like establishing connections with people outside of my family felt like a very foreign idea. And I just wasn't really comfortable with it. I just didn't invest in those sorts of relationships. I often think about like, what would I do differently if I were to redo my college experience? And that's definitely one of them. I think I would have made more of an effort to be more social and actually establish connections with people, and not just like in a networking sort of space, but like actual genuine friendships with people. Because I'm sure there were tons of awesome people from different backgrounds, different perspectives. And I just didn't really take advantage of that. I just took advantage of the academic side of things, and that was it. But feeling uncomfortable to say hello is real. We have all of these like social norms or social rules. Sometimes I think you're either lost as to what rule applies where and how, and or it also maybe some rules just feel uncomfortable to you. So I think my general rule is if you're walking past someone, you can at least attempt a smile. Some people don't give it back to you, and that's okay. Like, don't take that personally. They could be super busy. Maybe they're anxious themselves, have other things on their mind. So if you don't get a smile in return, like, don't take that to heart. You could say hello if you like, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think like a normal social rule would be if you're walking past someone, you could smile, like a little smirk, and then keep on walking. But I've also found like moments where I'm making the effort to say hello or say hi, how are you, or maybe pay someone a compliment. I end up feeling really good. Usually, like it doesn't end up backfiring on me. Something that I always say is I would never regret being kind to someone. So if I'm trying to figure out, am I going to be kind or not kind? Like if it doesn't take so much for me to be kind, like I'm just going to be kind. So try with a small smile at first and see how that feels for you. And if you're like, okay, like I can do this, I got this. If you want to bring it up to saying, hi, how are you? And then continuing to walk. And if they say, oh, I'm doing good, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. And just continue walking by. I think that would be the second step, and see how things feel from there. But a small smile couldn't hurt. Okay, so this one is titled Suggest Me Awkward Things to Do in Order to Be Less Shy. Okay, so I see what they mean. Like, kind of like exposure therapy. Like, what are some things that we would consider us who experience social anxiety can do in order to be less shy? Kind of like to challenge ourselves. I find myself to be pretty comfortable with giving someone a compliment, probably because it has nothing to do with me. So it's not like, not look at me, like, let's look at you. So throwing it on the other person of like, oh, I really like the color of your shirt, or you look really nice today. Or if you're in an elevator and it's really awkward, yeah, just paying like, oh, I really like your sneakers. And it could just be the compliment. And then again, we can do the step up later of like, I really like your sneakers. Where'd you get them? So it's bit by bit, but I think paying someone a compliment can take the stress from you and place the attention on someone else, which more than likely will feel comfortable for you if you are trying to manage your anxiety. So putting it on them, and when you're typically anyways, when someone receives a compliment, it kind of puts their guard down as well. And like, oh, like this person is friendly. Like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I actually got them at blank, whatever store it was. So I think paying someone a compliment may feel awkward because of the overthinking of feeling like, oh, that's so random. That's out of nowhere. Like, that's so weird. Like, why would I just like say that? You'd be surprised, and you might end up like making someone feel really great. So why not take the chance of just attempting to pay someone a compliment? But I'll also say on the other side, when you're receiving compliments, I know I'm so bad at this. It's like kind of downplaying whatever the compliment is, or like kind of dismissing someone else's compliment. If receiving compliments feels super awkward for you, just try your best to train yourself to say thank you. That's it. You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to invalidate, validate, dismiss whatever the compliment may be. Just say thank you. I appreciate that. And that's it. And that's a challenge in itself. That can feel really, really uncomfortable and odd in your body to like receive compliments. But I would suggest that being an exercise whenever you encounter that, to just try to say thank you, and that is it. And these are the baby steps in the beginning. And obviously there's an in between, but like for me specifically, I would love to get to a point where I get to a place of like really, really not caring about what other people think of me, what people are saying or thinking or judging, like whether I look ridiculous outside, whatever ridiculous means to me, or I think I saw a video, or did I see this in person? I don't remember. People have laid out just on the sidewalk just to be uncomfortable in that space, because obviously people are going to be looking, people are going to be avoiding where you are to like not step on you. But the practice is to not care about what other people are thinking, and literally laying in that uncomfortability and dealing with it. I don't know if I can ever get to that point, and it's not something I would suggest. I don't want you to possibly be stepped on, but to get to that, I feel like it's like, whoa, like mastery of like really not caring. You're out in public and just laying on a sidewalk in a crowded place like that. Yeah. To me, anyways, that would be like the highest mark for me. But starting small, I think, is really important instead of making the big jump elsewhere where it feels really, really scary. Start with the little things, and those little things will add up over time. Okay, this next one says, I hate this. I hate how social anxiety absolutely F's my social life and work life. Example, had a work function today and immediately the social anxiety shows up. As much as I try to be good to others, I know that I come across as unapproachable and standoffish when the social anxiety kicks in. Can't help but notice, but everyone greets each other and smiles at each other, except me. Here I am struggling to not crawl under the nearest rock and probably coming across as pissed off and antisocial. Other folks return my vibe in kind. I can't blame them. All they see is some guy who doesn't want to people and is a nervous wreck. But y'all want to know the worst part? I actively think to myself during all of this, I don't want to be like this. I so desperately want to be extroverted and socialize. I'm so tired of this being my life. It hurts. It hurts me to my core because I want to be friends, or at least affable. I'm in a conference room at work typing this out and trying not to cry like a baby because I'm so sick of this being my life. So that's my day, and as of this post, my life. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people may misunderstand about people who struggle with social anxiety. Sure, it can be comfortable to be this way, since we're trying to avoid discomfort. So this is our comfortable zone or spot. But that doesn't mean that we want to stay this way. It doesn't mean that I want to be antisocial. It doesn't mean that I don't want to make friends or, be able to small talk at cocktail parties, or be able to speak confidently at a conference for work, or whatever the environment calls for. Many of us don't like being this way. It feels quite uncomfortable to be this way. Even when we're supposedly comfortable by avoiding the situation, many of us still struggle with guilt and shame when we avoid situations, when we don't go to the party, when we don't go to the dinner, when we stay home instead. It doesn't mean we're having a jolly old time at home. It means for many of us, it's feeling shitty and bad that we didn't go. Sure, it's the less of two evils, but we're still not enjoying the fact that we were not able to do this social thing, that we're not able to seemingly function like other people do. And I think this post shows that in the frustration of not wanting to be this way, but it almost feels like we can't help it. We're just attempting to find ways to change it, but it's like if we don't know how to change, it's like feeling stuck. So I definitely think it's a misunderstanding of like someone just, wanting to be standoffish, or someone just being a bitch, or someone being rude. It doesn't necessarily mean that, all of those things. It just, we feel as though we can't do those things like others can. At least that it seems pretty easy for other people to do so. So I appreciate this post in showing that misunderstanding, or showing that, sure, we create this safety bubble, but that doesn't mean we enjoy being in the safety bubble. And this is where I would suggest, if you're feeling like this, definitely go get help in your community, whether it's therapy or coaching. Look up the resources in your area to see what kind of help you can get. But this is something that you can move past, or you can better manage, especially if it's impeding with your day-to-day functioning, or it's making you feel really bad about yourself. Like, this is something that you should really work on checking out and finding ways to move forward from it. And like I said, from my therapy experience, like it helped tremendously. I'm at such a better place with it now. Not to say it's 100% gone, but ridiculously so much better than the past. And I don't know if it ever will be gone for me, to be frank. I don't know if I will ever just not experience that slight uncomfortability or those slight awkward moments. And I'm thinking about the awkward moments for so many days, or for a million times after that randomly. But compared to how I was then, today, like, it doesn't really stop me from doing things. It's more so, I know when I walk into certain situations, like, okay, I know this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm still going to do it. And I'm going to be uncomfortable while doing it. But there's also going to be a lot of plus sides to it. And I'm still going to gain more than what I so-called lose from the experience. And I have found that it ends up being more good than so-called bad. And I hope that you get there as well. If this is something you're really struggling with, I highly, highly suggest getting help for it, because you can move past it. You can make changes. You just have to put forth the effort and energy to that change, but it really can get better. This is a good place to stop. I really, really hope this episode provided you value. If it did, please like and give it a rating. That helps to make the podcast more visible to others and grow our Inquisitively Me community. Share the episode with family and friends, anyone you think could benefit from it. To stay up to date with all of my episodes, the easiest way to do that is by following the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Take care of yourself. Keep asking, keep wondering, keep being inquisitively you. Until next time.